What's happening, guys? It's Nick from S2 Strategic Defense. Real quick shout out to my friend Paul from Legally Armed America for asking me to do a quick demonstration for you guys on edge weapons disarms.
I got it.
Now, edge weapons disarms to me are a hot topic, whether I'm working with my law enforcement groups or my civilian groups, and they're widely misunderstood. So in this video, what I want to do is go through some things that might help you understand what's involved, the dynamics of a knife disarm, and then I want to give you guys kind of a strategy to help you develop your own skills when it comes to edge weapons disarm, okay? All right, so real quick, let's take a look at the characteristics of an edged weapon. Knives are typically short and sharp, right? Short of being a machete or something like that, but for the most part, short, sharp weapons, okay? They're omnidirectional. I'll explain that in just a second. And they're often used as slashing or thrusting weapon. Not really often used as a projectile weapon, although I suppose you could throw it at somebody once. All right, being a short and sharp weapon, what does that tell you? That tells you that it has to be in close proximity to be an effective weapon, all right? Meaning up close and personal, okay? Up close and personal also brings its own different types of dynamics. It's typically much more aggressive. Sometimes there's a lot of forward pressure, and there's always this entanglement, right? So, you know, our arms might be tied up, or we might be hanging on somebody's collar or their shirt and pushing and pulling and that kind of stuff, okay? And because it's close proximity, a lot of times you don't see the knife. More often than not, you feel the knife first, then you see it afterward. Shit, got cut. Yeah, that's right, it happens, man. All right, so there's some dynamics that you have to pay attention to when it comes to that. Now, I said an edge weapon is omnidirectional. What does that mean? Omnidirectional means that this is viable 360 degrees, any direction, right? I can use it in front of me, I can use it on the side of me, I can use it behind me. The articulations of the wrist change the blade angle or the cutting angle, right? The articulation of the elbow can go from thrusting to slashing. I can drive power with the articulation of the shoulder, the tricep, and the back, and then my hips can get involved behind all of that. And so ultimately, when you take all of that, you find out that the amount of potential angles that the knife can attack you at are infinite, okay? And we haven't even gotten into reverse grip or you know, two knives or double blade or double edge or any of that stuff, okay? So there's a lot of variables that come in. If you have infinite variables, we cannot take a technique or even two or three techniques and say that's going to be effective. We have to focus on attribute development. Attribute development meaning timing, distancing, tactile sensitivity, so being able to read pressure with your hands, give that kind of a baseline with proper structure and develop it. When it comes to edge weapons disarms, and I say this even after 25 years of me focusing on the short blade, training day in and day out, teaching across the globe, it's a very high level skill thing. It takes high level of skill, it takes high level attributes, it takes high level awareness, and it's all bound together by high levels of luck, okay? It's incidental, if not accidental. And so I want you guys to understand that particular part of it. All right, so let's talk about what goes into a edge weapon disarm, all right? First and foremost, I said that there's infinite variables. I'm using a training blade here real fast for you guys. Keep in mind that at any given point in time, I could change the angle. I could go from slash to thrust, angular slash, backhand slash, underhand thrust, overhand thrust, power thrust. Any of these types of things are possible. Drop of a dime, we could change that. I'll give you a quick example of this. Let's say that my friend Emmanuel, who's not trained with me, but he has been training in mixed martial arts for the past couple of years, so he's got some tools under his belt. If he uses a rear hand parry to deflect my blade, okay, or front hand, you see how he's blocking that off. You think that he's safe from the blade, right? He's not. When he makes this contact, I will cut his hand and his fingers, all right? Which means that that's now bleeding. I'll give you guys again, listen for the audible beep here. Here we go, he blocks. Look at how I trap the hand and I just retract the knife. And that's cutting straight through the middle of his hand or cutting his fingers. He's not gonna involve that into the fight again, right? One more time for you guys. I punch, he's deflecting, I trap, and I cut, okay? So that's a problem. Why? Because the articulation of the wrist allows me to change the angle of the blade. Keep that in mind. All right, so if I hand this over to Emmanuel here, let's go off of the basic thrust for a second, okay? If he's thrusting towards my belly, A to B, I have to pay attention to a bunch of things. If I have the luxury of distance, 10, 15, 20 feet, okay, fine. That's not a viable tool there, but it's a close proximity tool, right? Right now, I can see the knife. I know exactly where he's at, and I know he's the only threat that I have. There's nobody else involved. We're not worried about being on snow, gravel, grass. It's daytime out, even though it's cloudy, right? So we're not worried about nighttime cover kind of stuff. So I have all of the perfect variables to be successful, ideally. He feeds that towards the belly. The first thing I want to do is bridge connection. Bridge connection just means make contact somewhere. Why? Because I can't just blink and the knife's going to fall out of his hand, all right? So I have to start slowing the mobility or limiting the mobility of his thrusting arm down. The way I do that is by bridging the first connection. So he feeds this in, bridge the first connection. Sometimes I will off-angle deflect with it. This could be done from the outside or from the inside, just based on where we're standing. Second part to it is what we call 2-on-1 control, okay? If a knife goes out, nobody holds it out there. I mean, my friend's holding it out there right now for demonstration purposes, but nobody ever does that, right? I mean, they're sewing machine the knife, they're punching it in, they're pulling it back out. If we can't catch it, that cycle's gonna repeat, which means we have to put in some kind of a roadblock. Hard, isn't it? You're trying to get it back out too, and it's like, the 2-on-1 is what saves my ass.
I can see it, I definitely see that.
Because you pulled, and I was like, I ain't letting them get that back.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot more than just...
Yep. Yep. So he gives in, I got my first connection, and then I go 2-on-1 control. Sometimes on the forearm, sometimes down at the wrist, sometimes wrist and tricep, sometimes wrist and tricep to the other side, whatever you can get, okay? That's called 2-on-1 control. So step 1, bridge connection. Step 2, immediately look for 2-on-1 control. Now, I want you to notice something real quick. I got both my hands involved in here. If he can't pull his arm back, what do you think he's gonna do? He's gonna wallop me across the face with the other punch, okay? This is why I always say, like, disarming edge weapons is a lot of going after one threat and forgetting about the other, and then going back and forgetting about this, right? So I'm focused on the knife, I'm not focused on his hand, okay? If he punches that hand, I focus on the hand, I forgot about the knife. And so there's always this constant threat, okay? How do we mitigate that? We mitigate that by proper structure and angles. If I go ahead, bridge contact, 2-on-1 control, if I stay here between the tug of war that we're about to have, he'll eventually be able to stab me. It didn't take him much to do that. He could probably push his thumb forward and be able to touch, okay? So what do we need to do? Proper structure. Okay? He feeds in, I gotta go off to the side a little bit, so pick these angles. This is mobility, I have to have footwork on this thing. And I'm gonna tuck my ear to the side of his shoulder or his bicep, tricep. Why? So if he punches, he's punching me in the back or in the back of the head and not square in the face, which is potentially gonna knock me out, right? I can also do this to the inside, so he does this, and I'm here, and I can hug him up this way. Okay. So step 1, bridge connection. Step 2, 2-on-1 control. Step 3, some kind of a structure. I want you guys to notice something. I said that he's got articulation in his wrist. That means I can also move his wrist. Right now he's pointed at me. 1, 2, 3, watch what I'm doing. I'm moving the knife away from my body. Is it a guarantee? No, but it certainly helps me get past that problem, at least for a brief moment. Right? Okay, so one more time. Bridge connection, 2-on-1 control, structure up somehow, get this thing cleared, and articulate this knife. That puts me at step 4, all right? Step 4 is what we call the 3Ds. This is where I can either distance myself, I can dislodge, I'll explain that in a second, or I can disarm, okay? Distance myself means when he feeds the sit and I come over here, hopefully I can turn him and get away, maybe draw my firearm. That's a option, okay? Dislodge means a whole lot of I'm getting him away from his own knife, but the knife's not out of his hand, okay? Here's what I mean by that. Right here, we got to this particular step. Maybe I want to be able to take him to the floor, okay? Maybe we have the bar arm takedown, okay? And so there's a bunch of options there, so that's what we call dislodging, okay? And then, if you guys are really good and you've done something else, 1, 2, 3, I could put this somewhere and hopefully try to disarm the knife, okay? Takes a whole lot to get there, doesn't it? It's a lot of work just to be able to work. Okay, so how do we help that? We add in what we call punctuations, all right? Punctuation means this. When I get to here and here, maybe I'll punt him in the groin. Maybe I'll gouge him in the eye. Maybe I'll punch him in the throat. It's not gonna stop the fight by any means, but it'll buy me just a brief moment where I can then focus on being able to get rid of the blade, and that's important. So you have to create that opportunity. If you guys are watching this and you're going, man, that's a lot of steps, that's a lot of stuff I need to be able to do, this is why I said it's more of an incidental, if not accidental type of a thing. It requires a lot of training. It's high-level skill, high-level attribute, high-level awareness, and then sprinkle in some, good luck. It takes a lot of time. Is it worth training? Absolutely. Here's why. If you went from a 0% chance of survival and you went from 0 to 20%, I'll take that 20% anytime over 0 any day of the week. So that's important to me. The other thing it allows me to do is I know where my big bleeders are at, okay? At least if I get cut in the hand, and if you guys ever talk to or research defensive knife wounds, you'll see people are slashed up all over their arms and they got stab wounds and all kinds of stuff. If I can mitigate the big bleeders from taking damage and I'm keeping the damage on my arms, I'm still better off than not doing anything. But this is not a simple thing to do, right? It takes time, it takes repetition. 1, 2, 3, get down that structure. Now I can figure out what's going on. So I'm just gonna let him go from here so we can reset. He comes back after this, right here. Okay, fine. You see how I moved off to the side and I'm right here, good. Looking for that disarm, good. Here's what we call return to sender. If you guys didn't catch that, that goes right back over here, okay? What am I doing there? I'm using his momentum, okay? All right, here we go. Right, here would be a takedown or maybe knees to the face or something of that nature. So there's some options there, okay? So I just want you guys to see how we play with that. He's not at full speed. I'm not at full speed. Somebody on the YouTube's gonna be like, that would never work in a real life. And it's like, all right, man, I appreciate your advice from the anonymity of a keyboard. Ah!
That's opening my eyes. Like, holy fuck, dude. Like,
It's not easy.
that shit's rough.
Shit's rough. All right, guys, hopefully that helps you understand the complexity of edge weapons disarms, why it requires a lot of training, why a 2-hour seminar might get you started somewhere, but it's certainly not building any skill. It's a highly in tune kind of a thing. I think we've demonstrated that. I've given you guys some things that you can work on for yourselves. I'd highly recommend that you start repping that stuff out. Do it with some good training knives. We're obviously not trying to hurt anybody. Accidents happen all the time. And so get your hands on some good training equipment before you start getting too aggressive with it. All right, guys, best of luck. Train hard, be safe.